Good morning and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. And as always, we're back with another massive show to bring you all this morning. But before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video and please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. So on the show this morning, we're going to be talking about this story that's come out from a couple of different tabloid newspapers, let's call it, in the UK. About the Manchester United takeover. Obviously, we'll be giving our opinion on that. We'll be discussing it as a community about whether we think this is actually going to happen or not, and all the rest of it. We'll also be talking a little bit about the game yesterday. Obviously, Erik ten Hag has come out speaking after the game. There's also a story as well circulating from Samuel Luckhurst about apparently the Manchester United staff are despairing at Rashford's use of the ball. So we're going to be talking about that. There's lots to get into on the show this morning. Please do get involved in the comment section in the live chat. Let me know your thoughts on everything we discuss on today's show. Right, let's start off with some comments from yesterday's game then, shall we? Because obviously I know everyone's very upset about it. I know everyone's feeling probably pretty deflated this morning. I get all of that. Let's have a little look at what has been said since. Obviously, Erik ten Hag has now done his press conference, which I've just watched this morning. I mean, the standout things for me from the press conference were he says that Manchester United shouldn't be losing to Crystal Palace. I mean, that's kind of obvious, isn't it? I mean, at home to lose to Crystal Palace, that is not acceptable for Manchester United, regardless of where you're at in your kind of Manchester United managerial career. You can't be losing at home to Crystal Palace. Let's make that very, very clear. We beat them 3-0 in the week. Everyone's really, really positive. 48 hours later, we lose to them. I mean, it's embarrassing, really, isn't it? He's also asked about whether he thinks the players are dropping their heads and, not trying. And he says that they think they're trying. They just can't seem to, execute the plan in the opponent's box as well as in their own box, which I kind of agree, to be fair. Like, I think when you watched the game yesterday, everybody was trying. They're just either not good enough, or two, I mean, they're just not good enough, really, aren't they? There isn't another explanation. They're just simply not good enough. But let me know what you think. How are you feeling this morning after the game? What is your taking points after you've slept on it for a little bit? What do you think? Let me know in the comment section. Let me know in the live chat what you guys are feeling this morning. So yeah, Erik ten Hag's then talking about Marcus Rashford. He says, you have to be more determined, willingness to try and score a goal. I mean, I get that, but didn't he against Brighton have 13 shots and only have one shot on target? So he's clearly trying. He's either bad luck or what he's trying isn't working. I don't know. So I don't really see how he can be more determined to score a goal. I mean, are we encouraging Rashford to just take even more shots? He says, Erik ten Hag also goes on to say, I can't say the players didn't run, but the final part we didn't do well. You have to show more willingness to score that goal. It's not a matter of luck. You can't explain it like this. I kind of agree with that, to be fair. I think in that second half, we didn't show any moments of actually being able to score a goal, to be completely honest. It was very, very poor, it was. Let's see what else Erik ten Hag says. He says, I understand when you play Crystal Palace, you have to win. With all respect, of course that is a concern. We have to be more consistent. We now need a row of wins. I can give you reasons, but you will explain that as an excuse. There are no excuses. And then, you know what, right? I don't want to make everyone feel miserable this morning, but the interview then asks him, he says, you do realise you've still got to play Man City at home, Liverpool at home, Chelsea at home, Arsenal at home, at Old Trafford. And if you're not even winning the games at Old Trafford, what do you expect to happen when you go to Liverpool, when you go to Man City, when you go to Chelsea? Like, we could quite easily lose to all of the top 10 teams home and away this season. I would not be surprised at all. When Tottenham come to Old Trafford, obviously we've already lost to Brighton. When Arsenal come, when Man City come, that means that we have to be beating the bottom half of the team home and away. Every single one of them, Luton, Bournemouth. All of those teams we need to win home and away. There's no excuses. Obviously, we beat Burnley away, not that convincingly. So yeah, I don't really know. I've just ripped the head off my sumo. Yeah, so I don't really know where Manchester United go from here, to be honest. Obviously, we will be talking about this takeover story in a minute, and that's obviously come in as a result of that loss last night. He's then asked about Galatasaray. Obviously, we've got the game on Tuesday? Yeah, so we play on Tuesday, which I'm excited about. I love football. I love Manchester United. So obviously I'm annoyed that we lost yesterday. I'm upset about it, but I am looking forward to the next game. Hopefully we can go and win that. I mean, we're not going to win the Champions League, but the last thing we could ever want is to drop down to the Europa League. I think that's not great for Manchester United at this point. I think if we drop down to the Europa League, I don't think we'll even win that either. To be completely honest with you, I don't think we'll win the Europa League. I genuinely don't. Like, when you actually look at the teams that are in the Europa League, There are some really good teams in there. Obviously, Liverpool are in there. Who else is in there? I'm just having a quick look. Roma, Villarreal, Brighton, West Ham. I mean, we'd probably lose to most of those teams, wouldn't we? We'd probably lose to West Ham at the moment. We'd probably lose to, well, we did lose to Brighton. We'd lose to Liverpool. Who else is in there? Bayern Leverkusen. You know, there's some really, really difficult teams in that Europa League. Ajax, obviously, as well. Obviously, they're in a poor run of form at the moment. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think. Would you rather drop down to the Europa League if it meant that you could actually potentially win a trophy? Let me know what you guys think. I'll read out a couple of your comments as well. Let's see what people says. Darren says, sack Erik ten Hag, 4 defeats from 7 games, needs to go now, no more time given to him. I do disagree, but just to be very, very clear, to give a balanced argument on both sides, right? But this is the worst run that we've ever had in the Premier League. We've never, in the history of the Premier League, so since it's been called the Premier League, obviously, when's that, about 15, 20 years it's been called the Premier League, we've never lost 4 of our first 7 games, ever. This is the first time we've ever done that. So it's absolutely terrible. He has just broken a record for the most losses in the first 7 games of a season. And when you think that we had David Moyes, Louis van Gaal, who nobody seemed to like, we obviously had Jose Mourinho, we had all of these other managers, and Ten Hag's the only one who's lost 4 in his first 7 games. I will say this though, right? Let's be very, very fair. The first 7 games we've had have been relatively hard, okay? Obviously, Crystal Palace is not an excuse, but if you look through the games we have played, I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but I saw a stat on, I think it was on Sky Sports, and it said that apparently we have had the second hardest run of games so far out of any team in the Premier League, which I think is believable. Like if you look through our games, you know, Wolves' first game of the season, okay, that was then Tottenham, then Nottingham Forest, then Arsenal. So you've got Arsenal and Tottenham away within the first 4 games of the season. That's difficult. Then you've got Brighton at home, which again is difficult. Brighton were a better side than us last season. Then you have Burnley away, which again is a difficult game. And then Crystal Palace at home. I would say, like, if you actually looked at those 7 games from the off at the beginning of the season, being completely realistic, I would say you're probably going to get maybe 3 or 4 wins out of those 7 games. And that's what we've got. So I know everyone's really upset. I know everyone's, you know, feeling frustrated this morning. But did you really think we were going to go and beat Arsenal? I didn't. Did you really think we were going to go and beat Tottenham? I didn't. Did you really think that we were going to beat Brighton? I don't know. Probably not. We lost to Brighton last season. I was at that game, the first home game of the season. First game under Erik ten Hag. I went into that game with so much excitement, enthusiasm, went to the match, and we lost to Brighton the first game of the season. So you've just got to be realistic now. I said this on my match reaction the other day. We have this false sense of entitlement as Manchester United fans because we've been spoilt over the last, well, in the Fergie era, we were obviously spoilt, weren't we? We were the best team in world football for a long time. We're not that team anymore. We're a top half of the table team at the moment. That is our expectation, realistically. You know, somewhere between 1st and 10th is where Manchester United will finish year on year. But there's no guarantee on where it will be in that top 10. That's how I see Manchester United now. I don't know how we change that personally at this moment in time. I think for me, I know people always say, oh, you can't blame the owners, but I do think all of this stems from the top downwards. So I think obviously the owners, CEOs, John Murtagh, Richard Arnolds, the scouts, everything around Manchester United is completely rotten. I think Erik ten Hag is a good manager. I think he's the right person for the job at this moment in time. I'm not saying there isn't a better manager in world football. There probably is, but based on who's available at the moment, I don't think there is anybody. I don't think Zinedine Zidane would come in and make much of a difference. Maybe he would. Obviously, it's completely hypothetical. But for me, I don't think he would make much difference. We just saw De Zerbi, who loads of people in the chat seem to love, get absolutely battered 6-1 by Aston Villa yesterday. Do you still think De Zerbi's better than Ten Hag? I'm not sure. Obviously, we did lose to Brighton a couple of weeks ago. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat then. Sean says, Erik is not good enough for the Premier League. Yeah. I mean, obviously, you're entitled to your opinion. I don't know. MC says Luton beat Everton. Lol. Yeah. What else we got? Richard says Burnley is a difficult game. I mean, mate, away at Burnley, that's never an easy fixture. Think about it. Burnley away. Burnley at home, you expect to win. Burnley away is a difficult game. It is. I don't know why, but historically, Burnley away has always been a difficult game for teams. It's always been like a 1-0, a 0-0. It has really, hasn't it? But maybe not this season. Burnley have been quite poor, haven't they, so far? Right, let's see what people are saying in the live chat this morning. Richie says we were lucky to beat Wolves, Forest and Burnley. Yeah, I agree with you. We were awful against Wolves. We were awful against Burnley. The Wolves game the Forest game we did show some determination to come back from 2-0, so fair play to that, but we were lucky. So yeah, we could genuinely, I'm not even being dramatic here, right? We could genuinely have had maybe 1 or 4 points from the first 7 games. That Wolves game, we should have conceded a penalty. Onana, that should have been a penalty. It should have been 1-1. Wolves should have won that game, let alone draw it. The Forest game, if Forest were a bit more solidified and contained themselves, they should have held out a 2-0 victory, but they didn't. Burnley, I think Burnley were the better team against us in that game as well. So we could have easily been in a much worse situation than we are. Josh says Zidane is the under-21s coach. Really? Surely not. Surely Zinedine Zidane can't be managing the under-21s. How has he gone from managing Real Madrid, winning, what was it, 3 3 Champions Leagues in a row? There's a story here saying that he's... Sorry, I'm just got a bit distracted here. There's a story saying that apparently Newcastle are interested in trying to get Zinedine Zidane. What? I don't know. I'm not sure if Zinedine Zidane is this under-21s coach. I'm not sure where you've got that from, but let me know. Let's see what else people are saying. Al says Erik ten Hag spent the transfer budget poorly. That's the problem. I will agree with that 100%. I will back you on that. But it does boil back to poor management from above Erik ten Hag. The fact that Erik ten Hag, right, who is a coach, he's a coach. His job is to coach the players how to play football. He's not a scout. He's not a director of football. The fact that he was given the money and the freedom to buy whoever he wanted, that is not how it ever should be in any football club. It shouldn't. It doesn't work like that. So it's easy to say Erik ten Hag bought the players, but then who gave Erik ten Hag the money to buy the players? Why did they do that? Those are the questions you have to be asked. You have to ask yourself. Right. Anyway, let's move on to the next bit of the show, though. So obviously we have got this massive game against Galatasaray on Tuesday. Let me know what your score predictions are going to be for that match. We have to go and get a big result against Galatasaray. We have to. There's no excuses. We are still in the running for our group in the Champions League, remember? Obviously, we lost to Bayern, but the first game between Galatasaray and Copenhagen was a draw. So if we go and beat Galatasaray on Tuesday and Copenhagen lose to Bayern Munich, which I assume they will, we'll go to second in the group. So, we could even go to first, actually, if we beat Galatasaray by enough goals. So things can turn around. You never know in football. Like, if I'd have said to you at the beginning of last season that Inter Milan were going to get to the Champions League final, you'd have said you're having a laugh. Like, crazier things have happened. I just don't want to drop down to the Europa League. I just think it would be such a miserable moment, especially then when we don't even win it as well. It'd be very deflating. But let's see what people are saying in the chat. Dan says referees are very biased against Manchester United. VAR decision is against us. The thing is, right, I get all of that, but I think I've just gone past the point of just blaming the referees for all of our inconsistencies. Is it the referee's fault that we don't create any chances? No. Is it the referee's fault that we can't break down a low block? No. Is it the referee's fault that Rashford scored 1 goal in 7 games? No. Do you know what I mean? The list could go on and on and on. Like, I know it's easy to say the refereeing in the Premier League is poor, but it's poor for everybody. The refereeing in the Premier League is terrible. It is. VAR is terrible. It needs to be sorted out. But I think everybody is in a similar situation. You know, we could say the refereeing is poor against Manchester United, but then you could say, well, Wolves should have had a penalty against us in that first game of the season. You know, there's all these things, there's all these counter arguments, and I'm kind of a little bit fed up with the whole excuses of just like blame the referees. It's not the players' fault. Blah blah blah. You know what I mean? I just think we've kind of gone past that point now. If it happens in one game, you know, yes, okay, maybe you can focus on that, but it's every single game we don't seem to be able to create chances. Irfan says Zidane, here we go. Al says Erik ten Hag should have not wasted 50 million on Onana when we had Matis Kovar earning just 10k per week, Mason Mount for 60 million. Mate, I completely agree with you. I'm not arguing that I agree that the signings have been poor. The wrong players have been bought. But what I'm saying to you is, right, yes, you blame Erik ten Hag for that, but you should also be blaming the people above him, because coaches, okay, Erik ten Hag is a coach. That's his job. His job is to coach the players. Coaches don't buy the players. That never happens. You have a director of football. You have a CEO. Those are the people who pick the players. You can tell that every single person we signed this summer was literally them saying, oh, Eric, who do you want us to sign? Oh, let's get Onana. Oh, let's get Mason Mount. Do you know what I mean? They were Erik ten Hag's people. not Manchester United as a club's people or what meets their philosophy. It's what Erik ten Hag just thought he'd be able to get. Richard says, how long do you give Erik ten Hag if the results stay poor? Mate, I'll be honest with you, right? I don't think... Who are you going to bring in as a replacement? Let me know that. The question needs to have a bit more context to it, because for me, who is there to bring in? De Zerbi, I'm not that convinced by. He's like, even before yesterday, I wasn't that convinced by De Zerbi, right? Just lost 6-1 to Aston Villa. That's an absolute joke, isn't it? 6-1. Yes, they beat us, but I mean, everybody's beating us. So is that really a massive achievement? I know Brighton are playing attractive football, so don't, people come back to this and say, oh, you're saying De Zerbi isn't a good manager. De Zerbi is a good manager, but the reason that De Zerbi does well is because of Brighton, because they have a style of play, because they recruit players to match their style of play. They have proper scouts. They have directors of football who, if De Zerbi goes, they've got the next manager lined up who will play exactly the same style of football. Everyone will say, oh my God, this manager's incredible. But really it's just Brighton being a well-run, well-oiled club. So it's not De Zerbi, no. Nagelsmann's obviously just taken the Germany job. So let me know, I'm happy to answer this question, but please do give me a bit more to it. We've got a super chat coming in from Jenna. Thank you very much for the support. Jenna says, for the past decade, we have been living off individual moments. Every game, you genuinely don't know what to expect. Score-wise, we have no consistency. Exactly. I 100% agree with you, Jenna. 1,000% agree with you. We have no style of play. We're either counter-attack FC or moments FC. Those are our two styles of play over the last 10 years. And you know what? In some ways, maybe Erik ten Hag should just revert back to that. Maybe we should just revert back to counter-attacking football. Park the bus, pass the ball to Rashford, hit it, get on the break and score. Because that's how we kind of played last season, and that's how we won games. We counter-attacked at home against Crystal Palace. We let them put pressure on us. Bruno plays the ball over the top. Rashford gets it and we score. That was how we got third last season, and how we won the League Cup, and how we got to an FA Cup final. Think of all the games, right? Think of the League Cup final. Newcastle were all over us for pretty much the whole of that game, but we got some goals on the counter-attack. That is the way of Manchester United at the moment. And you can see what Erik ten Hag's trying to do. He's trying to turn us into this 80% style possession team who dominate the ball and pin people in their own half. But we've never been able to break teams down with a low block. And it's all good and well, right? Trying to play this style of football. But if you can't break the teams down, having 80% possession doesn't win you games unless you can actually score goals. But thank you very much for the super chat, Jenna. I really, really appreciate the support. Everybody who's just joined, please do smash a like on the video. And please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're on the road to 20k subscribers. I know everyone's feeling a bit miserable at the moment, but yeah, any support you can give is obviously massively appreciated. We're only 30 subscribers away from 19,600, so please do go and do that. Richie says, I'll give Erik ten Hag 2 more Premier League games. If Manchester United lose both, then I'll definitely question him. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt until then. I think that's fair. I mean, if you look at our next 2 Premier League games, right? We've got Brentford at home. That's a difficult game. Let's not beat around the bush. Brentford are a good side. We have to beat Brentford at home. You have to beat Sheffield United away. And you know what? I'm going to say this now, and people are going to say I'm deluded. You have to beat Manchester City at home as well. We're playing Man City in the Manchester Derby in 3 weeks' time. You have to win that game. You have to. Otherwise, I think you look at our season so far, right? Even if we win the next 2 Premier League games, we have to go and get a result against Man City. It has to happen. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat quickly. Just going back to the manager thing as well, right? If you actually break it down, okay? Nagelsmann's just taken the Germany job, so he's gone. De Zerbi, I'm not that convinced by. I don't think he'll do much of a better job. He would do a good job if we had the proper, foundations like Brighton do, but we don't. So, I mean, imagine Erik ten Hag going to Brighton. I'm sure he would play just as attractive football as De Zerbi, and I'm sure he'd be just as successful as De Zerbi, right? It's because of the foundations of what that club has set that allows those managers to succeed. There isn't anybody to replace him with. Who would you replace him with? Let me know. And I think that is part of the problem as well. So if anybody has this answer for me, please let me know, and I'm happy to discuss it. I'm just going to have a look through the chat. People are saying Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is available. I mean, that just pretty much sums it up, doesn't it? Like, I know you're obviously joking, but who else have we got? I mean, yeah, there's literally not a single person in the chat who's saying sack Ten Hag. It's giving me who the next manager is. So it's all good and well saying sack Ten Hag, and then what? You've got what's he called? Steve McLaren as the manager then. Is that what you want? Like, because that's probably what would happen. It would probably be Steve McLaren as the manager till the end of the season. I mean, is that really better than Erik ten Hag? I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, there's nobody in the chat who's giving any all the people, somebody saying Graham Potter. I mean, I think we're scraping the barrel here, to be honest. Is Graham Potter really a better manager than Erik ten Hag? Really? You've seen exactly the same thing, which proves my point, right? Brighton, Graham Potter, unbelievable because of how well run the club is. They get rid of Graham Potter, he goes to Chelsea. De Zerbi comes in and does an equally as good job. Graham Potter goes to Chelsea, who is a badly run club at that moment in their time, with loads of players that needed to go, with no system and all the rest of it, and he gets sacked after, what, like 3 months? That's the fear that can happen. Somebody saying Erik ten Hag out, Flick in. Hansi, was his name Hansi Flick? I mean, is he not got a job somewhere? Let's have a look. So right, yeah, so Hansi Flick doesn't have a job. So he's pretty much the only manager in world football who is available at this moment in time, realistically. What's he won? He's won a Champions League, he's won a World Cup with Germany. I mean, yeah, he's won some good trophies. He's obviously a decent manager. People are saying bring in Zidane, bring in Ferguson. I mean, Ferguson's not gonna. I wouldn't even want Ferguson to come back. You know, he's what, in his 70s now. Imagine the stress that would be. Alan says Zidane will never come to Manchester. Yeah, I don't think Zidane will come to Manchester United ever. Somebody saying Josh is saying Arne Slot. He's another Dutch manager. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to this story about the takeover because I've kind of gone off on a bit of a tangent here. So this story is coming out from 2 or 3 different tabloid, emphasize the word tabloid, which if people don't know what that is, it's newspapers in the UK, right? 2 or 3 different newspapers in the UK this morning. And the headline that they're going with, right, which is in the video description, is this. Sheikh Jassim will complete his full takeover of Manchester United in the next 2 weeks. They're all running with this headline. None of the Bloombergs, the Fabrizios, the Reuters, none of them are coming out with it. It's just coming out from these tabloid newspapers. The tabloid newspapers told us 2 weeks ago that the Glazers were staying. We lose a game, and now they're all telling us that Sheikh Jassim's going to take over in 2 weeks. Because I know there's a couple of people in the chat who doesn't want Sheikh Jassim, but I would say 90% of people want Sheikh Jassim. So it's an obvious story for Manchester United's PR team to put out, isn't it? Tell all the tabloid newspapers, print the story that Sheikh Jassim's going to take over in 2 weeks. Hopefully that will, calm the boos, because there was loads of boos at Old Trafford after the game. It was very, very clear. It was very, very very, very vocal. The fans are not happy at the moment, as all of you are in the chat. What's the easiest way to try and suppress the fans? Put out a story that the Glazers are going to sell to Sheikh Jassim within 2 weeks. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't know. I literally don't know anymore. I've got no idea. Your guess is as good as mine. I will say this though, right? Surely the Glazers advisors are saying to them right now, they're saying you're 10th and that we're 10th. If a couple of other results go, so if Fulham win this weekend, if Nottingham Forest win this weekend, we could be down to about 13th. If Chelsea win as well, we could be literally like, wait, let me just double check where we could be at the end of this weekend. I mean, we could be even lower than that. We could be 13th by the end of today. You're 13th in the Premier League. You're 9 points off Man City. You're 7 points off the top 4, 7 games into the season. It doesn't look like it's going to get any better. You've been offered probably $1 billion more than what the club's worth. Sell. They have to sell. I mean, they'd be absolute idiots if they don't sell. The only thing I will say is this, though. All of this makes sense to us as football fans, but on a commercial level, Manchester United are performing better than ever. It doesn't matter. The only thing I will say, though, is for how long can they ride that out, okay? If we say finish 12th this season, yes, you've got this new shirt sponsorship deal. Yes, you've got this new kit sponsorship deal. But I'm pretty sure all of those deals have clauses in that if we're not in the Champions League, the money will be less and all the rest of it. So I do just wonder, in the immediate future, us losing at home to Crystal Palace doesn't make a difference to the Glazers' pocket. But over the next 1 to 2 or 3 years, I think it will make a difference. Yeah, but let me know what you guys think about this. Do you think it will happen? I do still think they'll sell, especially with how poor we've been this season, because I think they'd be absolutely crazy to stay at this point. The fans are absolutely fuming. The fans want them out. The fans are not happy with the result. Sylvester says Ten Hag is the problem at Manchester United. Why didn't he play Dalot as a left back, Lindelof as a right back, and Evans to pair with Varane so Amrabat can compare Casemiro in the midfield? Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. It is. I don't know, mate, to be honest. I don't know. I know his selection has been scrutinised quite a lot, to be honest, by a lot of different people. I think his I think his substitutions are questionable as well. Why did we bring on Harry Maguire 60 minutes into the game? Like, why? What was the reason for that? I know Rafael Varane has just come back from injury, so maybe I've just answered my question, but you're trying to win a game and you're bringing on Harry Maguire. Like, I remember in the last attack of the game, right? There's maybe 30 seconds left of the match. Harry Maguire's down by the corner flag. He kicks it against his own player and it goes out for a throw in for Crystal Palace. Now, I'm not trying to say that we lost the game because of Harry Maguire. Far from it. We lost the game because our attackers can't score and our attackers don't create any chances or are unable to cross the ball. But to bring on Harry Maguire in the last couple of minutes as our only option, yeah, it's just embarrassing, isn't it? Al says, when are the fans going to protest like they do in Europe? Where are the Manchester United ultras? I don't know, mate. I don't know, to be honest. It doesn't really seem to happen like that in England, really. I know in like Holland and well, in the Netherlands specifically, in Amsterdam, you know, with the Ajax protests. I don't condone that though. You know, I mean, they're smashing up buildings and stuff and like setting fire to stuff. Like, is that really a good look? Like, Ajax have been absolutely spoiled over the last 20 years, right? They lose one game at home, was it 4-0 to Feyenoord, which is obviously unacceptable against a big rival. And then they're like burning down things and, you know, smashing up the stadium and like, I don't know. That's what I was saying at the beginning of this stream. I think after a while you lose that sense of entitlement. Obviously, Ajax fans have that sense of entitlement, don't they? Because they've been so successful over the years. I've lost that sense of entitlement now as a Manchester United fan. I go into the game against Brentford on Saturday saying we need to win for our season, but are we going to win? I don't know. I'd say it's 50-50. I genuinely would. Are we going to beat Galatasaray on Tuesday? We should do, but are we? It's 50-50. Whereas, you know, I think the Ajax fans still have that sense of entitlement where they're like, we're Ajax, we're the best, you know. Yeah. John says, this is what happens when the owners won't let you shop at Harrods and wants you to shop at Aldi. I agree, but I also think it's down to the owners giving you a shopping assistant who's from Aldi, but yet, well, actually, that doesn't make sense. You know, they don't give you the person to help you buy the things, right? They give you the money, but they just say, you just go and spend the money yourself. And then everyone just blames Erik ten Hag that he's had to coach the team. I'm pretty sure he's got an involvement in the under-21s as well. He does all of these things, and he also has to pick the players. I mean, that's just unheard of. It shouldn't happen like that. Nathan says, sell all the rubbish. Maguire, McTominay, Sancho, Bruno. Once the club has been sold, Erik ten Hag is making bad decisions, but I still back Erik ten Hag. The sums don't make sense to me. Yeah, I agree. I back Erik ten Hag as well, because I just don't think there's any other option at the moment, personally. And I'm not saying that if, you know, there was another manager, I would say sack him, because I do believe in Erik ten Hag. I do believe in what he's trying to do. I just don't think the players we have are able to do what he's trying to do. He's trying to do this 80% possession, you know, dominating football, and it just doesn't really seem to work. Tiborg, hope you're doing well, mate. Tiborg says, the Glazers don't understand football. They couldn't care less if we're 13th or 1st. They don't understand success brings money for them. Yeah, I mean, they're just happy with what they've got. They continue to make money year on year. They continue to break records for revenue. And that's all they really care about, right? But as Tiborg says, they don't really seem to understand that if they won the Premier League, they'd be making so much more money. If they won the Champions League, they'd be making so much more money. They're just happy with just consistently growing a little bit like they are at the moment. Every year it goes up. But imagine if we won the Premier League and the Champions League, our revenue would go through the roof. It literally would. You'd have so many more shirt sponsorship deals. You'd sell so many more shirts probably, and all the rest of it. Adrian says, Kieran, it's Erik ten Hag's fault. He insisted on dealing with transfers himself. What? So you're saying that Erik ten Hag should have a bigger voice than the owner of a football club? I don't agree. Jenna says, I get we need the Glazers out, but when you pay crazy wages to play for the shirt and you go out and perform like that, it is a joke. It's a weak mentality. That's what I mean. I completely agree. They're all overpaid. Most of them aren't good enough. They should be able to self-motivate themselves to go out and beat football teams. You know, I know that sounds really obvious and basic, but the fact that they can't even do that, the fact that they just put in these disgraceful performances over and over again, it's gone past the point of being unacceptable. It has. And I'm sick of all of these statements. I mean, you had Mason Mount coming out. This morning with a statement. Oh, it's just boring, isn't it? It's like Rashford comes out with these little statements. Mason Mount says, we have to improve and we will improve. We want to perform for the fans and we want to win games for them. I mean, that's literally the most just like basic thing I've ever read in my life. We will improve. We need to go away and look at some areas and they weren't there today. I mean, what does that even mean? Like, it's just rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. It is. It's just words. It means nothing. We don't see any improvement. We see glimmers of positivity. Do you remember me sat after this game against Crystal Palace in the week? And I said that was the first time since Erik ten Hag's been here that we've actually seen Erik ten Hag style football. And I couldn't believe it. I was in absolute shock. I thought I was living in dreamland, right? And then within about a day, we just go back to the usual. And you know what? I'll say this, right? I don't care. I'll say this. We need to go back to the team that for Galatasaray that we played in Crystal Palace, right? We need Garnacho to start, Pellistri to start. I would even start Anthony Martial. I like Rasmus Højlund, but I would give Anthony Martial a go. I'd give Hannibal a go. Get Rashford off. Maybe even get Bruno Fernandes out of there. Bring in those young players who are hungry, who are willing to run. Let's do it. Why not? Let's give it a chance. That was the best performance I've seen against Crystal Palace, the 3-0 victory, since Erik ten Hag's been here. Play that same team against Galatasaray. Stop giving these players on mad wages game time every single match just because of their name. You know, Marcus Rashford is not Kylian Mbappe. Let's be very, very clear. He seems to think he is. Manchester United seem to think that Marcus Rashford is the Kylian Mbappe of Manchester United. He is not. Look at the other teams in the Premier League, right? If you actually look at the other wingers in the rest of the teams above us, right? I would probably rather take Diaby from Aston Villa. I would probably rather take Saka from Arsenal. I would probably rather take Grealish from... I would. Not probably, I would. I would rather take... Who did Newcastle have? I don't know who Newcastle have off the top of my head. I'd rather take Matoma. I'd rather take Son any day of the week. I'd rather take Diaz from Liverpool. Like every single one of them, I would rather have over Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford is a player I do like, but I think all of those people are better than him. And we make him out to be the Kylian Mbappe of Manchester United. We've put him on this throne, you know, and it's just, it makes these players untouchable. And it's all good and well, Erik ten Hag having this mentality, I'm the boss, discipline and all the rest of it. But if you're still just picking people based on their name, not based on what's actually best for the team, that's the bit which I think makes a bit questionable for me. And those are the bits that I don't like. Nathan says, I agree with you, no Bruno or Rashford. Like, just to be very clear, I like both of those players, but I think we just have to give youth a chance now. We do. They've clearly showed that they mean it. I would give Mason Mount another go as well. I think Mason Mount has been all right in the last couple of games. Play Mason Mount on Tuesday. Play Hannibal. Play Pellistri. Play Garnacho. Play Martial. Why not? Like, what have we got to lose at this point? Let's see what else people are saying. Bob says the youngsters played for the shirt with passion, pride and hunger. Yeah, I 100% agree. It was a completely different performance. I know that Crystal Palace had a slightly different team on Tuesday as to what they did yesterday, but I don't know. Al says we don't have the players for possession-based football. We need ball-playing defenders and press-resistant midfielders. Erik ten Hag should have brought in different players for the system. I do agree with that. I think we signed the wrong people. I think Onana... I don't think Onana was the correct signing. I don't want to say that he's not a good player, but David De Gea should have been kept for one more year, 100%. We paid 50 million euros for a goalkeeper when we had the top goalkeeper, the best shot-stopping goalkeeper in the Premier League we had, and he's been the best shot-stopper for like the last 8 years, realistically. We brought in a goalkeeper to play this possession-based football, but we can't even play the possession-based football. I know stuff takes time, but in the Premier League, you don't get time. You don't. If we lose the next 2 or 3 games, I'm sure that there will be conversations about Erik ten Hag being sacked. There will be. Not from me, because I back the manager. I think that the problem lies higher up, and I've said that, and I won't change my stance on it. Obviously, if we go and lose 20-0 to Brentford, then obviously it's pretty hard not to say that Erik ten Hag should go after that, but that's probably not going to happen, is it? You know, if we get absolutely battered by Galatasaray, absolutely battered by Brentford, and then lose to Sheffield United, I mean by like a 5 or 6-0 in each game, then at that point you obviously have to question it, because at that point you'll say the players have clearly, dropped tools and aren't working for the manager, which has happened to every single manager, hasn't it? It's happened to Ollie, it happened to Ragnick, it happened to Mourinho. That's the next part of this process. Either we turn things around, or Ten Hag will go, not because I personally want him to go, but because the players will down tools and then the manager will get sacked. That's what just happens at Manchester United. They have this weak mentality where they lose a couple of games, they stop playing for the manager, and at that point the owners, the CEOs, whoever it has to be, takes action, because if you can't motivate your players to play for you, then that's a massive, massive issue. But as I've said to you many, many times before, it's not like this has just happened once. This has happened under every single manager since Fergie's gone. They all think they're better than they are. They all think they're superstars. They're all paid stupid amounts of money, and they're all pretty average. Let's be very, very clear about that. Joshua says we should place the academy players and some fringe players. Yeah, I agree. Joshua also says Isaac, Hansen, Aaron should get into the first team. Yeah, you know what? I honestly would give the youth a chance because that's our future. Like, as much as I like Bruno Fernandes, he's 30 years of age this year, right? He's probably going to need replacing in 2 or 3 years, realistically. Christian Eriksen, he's 31. He needs replacing. Anthony Martial's contract's up in the summer. He needs replacing. Varane's injury prone and 31. He needs replacing next summer. We've got about 4 or 5 people that need replacing, realistically, in this team. So we need to start bringing the people through from the youth academy. Otherwise, we're going to end up spending 100 million on Varane replacement, 100 million on Martial replacement. Do you know what I mean? Because that's just what we seem to do. Let's see what else people are saying. Somebody says, stop being a flip-flop. There's a reason why David De Gea hasn't found any team. He simply isn't good enough for the present-day football. The reason why David De Gea hasn't found a team is because he's asking for 250 grand a week. So go and check your facts first before you come at me with stuff like that. Because the reason he hasn't got a team is not because nobody wants him. There are loads of clubs who are trying to sign David De Gea. He wants 250 grand a week, which is ridiculous, to be honest. And that's why he just doesn't want to go and play unless he's going to get that amount of money, which I don't think he will get from anywhere. Ricardo says Ten Hag should not go now, but don't keep him as a hero. Has made very bad decisions. If he loses his head, it's down to him mainly. Yeah, I'm not saying Erik Ten Hag's untouchable. As I said, if the player's completely down tools, which I would not be surprised if they do in the next couple of games, then obviously conversations will start to be having to be had. Because if once it reaches that point where the manager can't motivate the players anymore, that's when you have to start asking questions. I don't think we're at that point yet. I think we're at the point where the players aren't good enough. They are trying. You can see they're still trying for the manager, but it's just not working. And you know what? I'll say this now. I said it earlier on in the show. If I was Erik Ten Hag, like he did last season, I would completely scrap his possession-based football and I would just go back to counter-attacking, because otherwise we're probably going to be in big trouble. We already are in big trouble, but that's what Erik Ten Hag did last season. Remember, the first 2 games of the season, we tried to play this possession-based football. We lost to Brighton and Brentford. Erik Ten Hag completely changes his philosophy, goes to counter-attacking football, and we end up going on a run and getting 3rd place. That's probably what's going to have to happen now. It's going to be park the bus, Bruno moments of magic, playing the ball over the top to Rashford and him score. And that's just going to be our future going forward. But I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Thank you so much to everyone who has joined me this morning. Please do make sure to smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel on the way out. I will be back later on today. And if anything breaks during the day, I always go live as always. This has been Daily Red Devil. Please do try and have a nice day away from all of this madness. Try and, I don't know, go out for a walk or do something. Try and clear your head. I know it's frustrating. I know everyone's annoyed, but it is what it is, isn't it? This is just the reality we live in now. So if you let every single result get you down, then you're just going to be pretty sad for the whole season. I know it's easier said than done, but I think we just have to lose this sense of entitlement as United fans now. I know some people will say it's not good enough with Manchester United, but Manchester United is this now, realistically, isn't it? But yeah, thank you, everyone. Please do have a nice day. Please smash a like. Please subscribe. I'll catch you all a bit later.